journalist turned writer who has extensively worked on the mystery behind Netaji's death. He is the chief of the NGO Mission Netaji and started researching in 2001 on the credibility behind Netaji's plane crash death. He has a number of publications which I will briefly point out now to his credit on Netaji's death. A few of the important publications are Back from Dead Inside the Subhash Bose Mystery, published in the year 2005. CIA's Eye on South Asia, published in the year 2008. India's Biggest Cover-Up, published in the year 2012. And No Secrets, published in the year 2013. So these are some of the few important books that are of credit to Mr. Anuj Dhar here. Now, without taking any further time, I would like to request Mr. Anuj Dhar to take on the audience, please. Sir, please.
But nervous to see so many of you India's one of the brightest people coming in such big numbers. This is my first visit to Chennai. Thank you very much, Vande Mataram. Yeah, thank you for having me here. I've been here for 24 hours now. Your campus probably is the best place to, I think, in Chennai. It's amazing, so many of you have turned up in such a short notice. So I'm delighted. I hope I will not bore you for another 2 hours. Well, I have, I think Netaji is not making news. No, one thing, let me start off by telling you that, before 2012, this issue was not even discussed in a roadside dhaba. Now, what has happened in last couple of months, especially since April, that everywhere you're talking about. I mean, I am here, I am in front of you in IIT, Madras. What has happened in last couple of months? What really, changed the whole this game? So, what happened in around 2000? I began to take interest because I was part of the media house. Then, sometime around 2004, we discovered. I especially discovered because me and my friends, we had this group called Mission Netaji. All of us now, you can see standing in the Prime Minister, the 14th of October. Now, what we found out is that it's not possible, to get media's attention on this case, the way the case stood in those days. I mean, media is not bothered about history in this country, and unless until you are breaking news about something, you really can't make a big issue out of it. And unless until you get a political party on the issue, you really can't solve the case. I am seeking, for example, declassification. Now, declassification will be done by a political leader. It won't be done by somebody from the Ramakrishna mission. So, what we thought of, we came up with the idea in 2004 or 5ish, is that rather than talking about Subhash Chandra Bose's death, we will talk about the issue of official secrecy. Now, you are living a democracy, you cannot keep filing secret about somebody who was so important for our country. So, rather than, this secrecy, transparency is part of democracy. So, you may be supporting party A, B, C, D, you may be living in any part of the world, but in this age and time, you would have to support declassification. So, sir, rather than supporting the issue of declassification, Netaji's death, and so support, we will talk about the issue of Subhash Chandra Bose's, the 5 which have been kept secret about him. So we have, then there was another problem area for us. Then you need to get his own family first on the issue. And that was all the more reason because I'm sorry, this is a political case. It became political before I was born. Now the problem with the family was that one section of the family was supporting Congress party. And they were toying the official government of India and all the while, and there was no way we could break their monopoly. And they were the ones who were hogging the limelight. Shri Bose, Professor Subhash Bose. So that's one of the things. So what do we do? So we need to get the other people from the family on board. Start off with Bengal, which is the Netaji's home state, because somebody goes missing. The first people should talk about him should be from his own family. So we started with Calcutta. We took out rally. We said in India we talk so much about justice for Jessica Lal, justice for this, justice for that. Why not for Subhash Chandra Bose? So we took out the first scandal mark for Subhash Chandra Bose way back in 2012. My book came out in 2012, India's Biggest Club, in which for the first time I outlined this entire plan that, look, we need to do these things and declassification is the motive. And thereafter the family joined us. Then whatever has happened, of course, is known to you that was reached this new government. The matter was raised with the Prime Minister. So beginning 23rd January, the first lot of the files would come out. Only one thing I'll tell you about the lot of file is that what do we expect on 23rd of January? Now 23rd of January, out of 41 classified files available with the PMO, some 33 would be made public. Don't expect anything earth-shattering on that day. I never said that the whole dimensions will change, nothing will happen on that day. Yes, you will have a lot of documentation. For example, this is a standard secret written by the Home Secretary. So these are what actually is wrong with those files. Most of these files which are going to be released on 23rd, they were created between 1952 and 2006 or 8, Congress party's time. So the entire narrative is from the Congress's point of view. For example, in front of you is a document. This is the Home Secretary's note. It says that in April 1956, the Government of India, in response to public demand, appointed an inquiry committee consisting of Shah Nawaz Khan, so on and so forth. No, this is not the truth. You did not form a committee. There was a gun put against your camera. That's why you did it. That's not the right narrative. Number two, you describe Shah Nawaz Khan as a member of IIT. Shah Nawaz Khan was an IIT only for 1 year, probably 1.5 years. For the rest of his life, he was a stooge of Congress party. In the name of God, please don't write like that. So the entire narrative in the government record is loaded with the assumption, and they are supporting one political party. So what you will get from these files, they will keep on saying that Netaji did die in a plane crash, even though there were demands, there were issues here and there. But if you go read in between the lines, check this evidence against the other evidence now available, you will reach the same conclusion as Justice Mukherjee did, that there was no plane crash and this man did not die. So this is by way of just introducing what's going to happen on 23rd. Now, what has happened to Subhash Chandra Bose? Essentially, what has happened in the last 10 odd years, a lot of information has become available. So what some of you who are elder to me when you were growing up, what you heard probably in those days, today you have evidence supporting that particular situation. If Pandit Nehru were alive today, he would be, I believe, in deep trouble, because there are evidence hinting that he's done something wrong about this case. It's a legal technicality, is no longer alive. So we have a lot of information that has become available, and the information which has become available tells us that whatever happened to Subhash Chandra Bose can be boiled down to just 3 possibilities, which means there is no 4th possibility. There have been many theories, some of them outlandish, absolutely bunkum nonsense. For example, some American Pulitzer Award-winning journalist claimed once that Netaji was captured by the American army and he was executed. Nonsense. I mean, there's nothing on record. I mean, you have some record. I mean, such a big person, apprehended by the army, there must be some record somewhere. There's nothing. Cock and bull story. So whatever happened to Subhash Chandra Bose is boiled down to only 3 possibilities, and these 3 possibilities are: A, that he died in a plane crash in Taiwan in 1945. This is the main newspaper of Calcutta in those days, breaking news that he has died. All the slides which I'm going to show you, all the documents, they're either from standard newspapers or the documents. So there's no tabloid stuff in this entire presentation. The second thing, this is the first time that he died in a plane crash. I told you have to choose from one of these 3 options. The first option that he died in a plane crash in Taiwan. The second option that, no, he didn't die in Taiwan. He was actually, this is India's #1 conspiracy theory. I have grown up in Delhi, I have heard everybody, even people in Congress party talk in private about it. People from intelligence talk about it in public, in the private. Journalists talk about it. Some of the political leaders like Subhash Swami are talking publicly about it. No, Netaji did not die in any plane crash. He was alive, and he was in Russia, where he was killed by Stalin at Nehru's behest. God forbid this should be true. But this is India's #1 conspiracy theory. That he was alive, he was in Russia, where he was killed by Stalin at Nehru's behest. So this is the second option. Third option doesn't make any sense of it. That he was actually a holy man, and he died in India in 85. 85 is what? 85 I would have seen it. I was rather young, but I should have seen it. So now suddenly, if this angle is taken to be true, for one, I mean, you were talking something which we thought happened in our grandfather's time, grandparents' time. It happened in our time, at least in my time. So this is the third option. So either he died in a plane crash in Taiwan, or he died in Russia, or he was in India and he died in 85 at the age of 88 in Faizabad as a hermit. So what is the reality? I'll give you my frank opinion, what I think, and I'll give you my reasons. I'll have to, this is around 60-70-year-old story. Somebody asked me yesterday, there have been controversies about others' deaths also, for example, Nandata Shastri. See, you can make a very good movie on Shastri's death episode. It's a very simple story. It's all about one night, and you have 4 or 5 characters, and something went on that night. Subhash Chandra Bose is very complicated because it's not about one night. It's multiple episodes, there's so many events, so many players, so many commissions, so on and so forth. It doesn't make sense in one go. So you need to devote a lot of time to understand the basic of this case, which I'll try to attempt. Now, what is the plane crash theory? So the plane crash theory is this. This is the clipping from Hindustan Times, but the same story appeared in all papers in India and outside India also. Subhash Chandra Bose was aligned with the Japanese forces, the Axis powers. The Japanese declared surrender on 15th of August 1945, that they were going to surrender to the Allied forces. And then, according to the plane crash story, as given out by Japanese and the Netaji's own people, was that on 16th of September, Subhash Chandra Bose left Singapore, which was the headquarters of his government, and he was heading towards Tokyo. And the plan was that after the surrender of the Japanese forces, he was to go to Tokyo, and he was to discuss INA's surrender with the Japanese top brass, to discuss the modality, how to surrender. Should the INA, surrender as a separate entity, or should it surrender, side by side the Japanese? So this is essentially what he had in mind, and this is the reason given that on that day he left Singapore for Tokyo to talks with Japanese government, and en route there was a plane crash in Taiwan and he died. So this is the plane crash story as it was given in those days, and at least the government of Japan held on to it until 1956 or so, in the same form. Now, that Subhash Chandra Bose was in Singapore is not in dispute. That he left Singapore on 16th of August is not in dispute. That he arrived in Saigon city, which is now Ho Chi Minh city, is not in dispute. In fact, this is the last picture of him taken. There were two planes in which he and his people were, traveling. So Netaji had his own plane. This is his own personal plane, a 12-seater plane, and there were a lot of people. So he had Abid Hassan, we had Gulzara Singh, Pritam Singh, S.A. here. So there were a couple of people and some Japanese were also there. So in the two planes, they flew out of Bangkok and they arrived in Saigon on the morning of 17th of August. This picture was taken there. So this is his coming to Saigon is not in dispute. Now something went wrong, there were some problems. So Japanese told him at that point of time, look, you cannot go further. There are problems. Americans have put embargo, on flights, and it would be difficult for you to go, for the entire party to go to Tokyo. So what you should do, you should go alone. We are having a plane, there's a plane which is carrying a certain Lieutenant General to that part of the world. He can drop you in Tokyo. And his name is Sunamasa Shire. Well, Subhash comes back to his own people, he asks him to, they're asking me to go alone. So these people tell him, no, you don't go alone, it's not advisable. At least take one of us with you. So Netaji goes back, discusses it with the Japanese, and he comes back and he tells them, I'm taking Habib with me. And Habib was his ADC in the camp of Subhash Bose. He was around 28 years old, he was Lieutenant Colonel, he was the Deputy Chief of the staff of the INA. So he selected Habibur Rahman. Now on 17th of August evening, Subhash Chandra Bose left Saigon with Habibur Rahman and Shedai. At least Habibur Rahman is not in dispute. So there were people who saw him leave. So till this point we have no problem. Now after leaving Saigon, they stay for the night in a place called Turin, which is known as Da Nang in Vietnam. They stayed overnight there. And then in the morning of 18th August, they resumed their journey and they reached what was known in those days as Matsuyama Aerodrome. Now this is the Taiwan Songshan Airport, the domestic airport of Taiwan these days. So they landed in Matsuyama Aerodrome around noon and they had a light lunch. This picture was taken in 1953 of the same area. Now it's a huge, of course, international airport there. And they took light lunch and then the plane resumed its journey, and when the plane took off, it crash landed. Netaji did not die because of the plane crash. He was almost unhurt. He had some cut mark. In fact, it so happened that when they were flying from Saigon to this part of the world, Netaji, Habibur Rahman said he was feeling cold. So he said, I put on woolen clothes, and I asked Netaji whether he was feeling cold. He said, I am not feeling cold. So Netaji was not wearing woolen clothes. He was sitting under a gasoline tank. And because this is a bomber plane which was given to them, and because, as I told you that he was not allowed to go in his own plane, he was asked to go and shift with General Shire. Shire was traveling with the bomber. Bomber has no seats, so they were sitting, and they were on pillows, and above Subhash Bose's head was a gasoline tank. So the moment this plane crashed, this tank burst, and Subhash was drenched in gasoline. And when the plane crashed, on the back side there was a blockage, you couldn't go out from there. On the front side there was a firewall. And he had to, both Rahman and Subhash jump through the firewall, and Subhash, since he was not wearing woolen clothes, since his clothes were drenched in gasoline, he caught fire. So then Rahman describes in great detail, that I come out and I find him that he's turned into a fireball, and I do my best to save his life. With his own hands, bare hands, he tore his clothes apart. He was completely naked at the area, but by the time he did that, he had third-degree burns. So there was nothing left, and he collapsed there. And then after some time, these Japanese came. They took him to the nearest hospital, where Dr. Yoshimi was in charge. Yoshimi did his best to save his life, but there was no way. He had third-degree burns, more than 70% of the body. By midnight he was dead, and there was nothing for them to do. They waited for 2 days, and after 2 days they decided to cremate him in Taiwan itself, because the body could not be transported to some other part of the world. The body was cremated there. In the first week of September, the remains of Subhash Chandra Bose were taken by Rahman to Tokyo and given to the Imperial headquarters. And from the Imperial headquarters, they reached S.A. Iyer, who was Subhash Bose's information broadcasting minister, and another gentleman. And from there, these people took these ashes and put them in Rinpoche temple. And so these Netaji's ashes are lying in Rinpoche temple still. So this is the sum and substance of the plane crash theory. Now, there has been a view, theory, of course, I can go on and talk about it, about conspiracy theory. That this entire story is a view, that the entire story that Netaji probably did not die or he escaped, he survived the plane crash, is basically conspiracy theory. This is the counter view, given by a lot of people. And say people, for reason political, probably to defame Congress party, probably to defame Pandit Nehru, they cooked up this entire story that he was alive. So this is the reason being given. Now, for the first point which I want to make, that this entire story about Netaji actually not dying and surviving, it didn't start with Indians. It started with British and Americans. The Indians in those days were not capable of understanding these things. Like, I wonder if you've been reading John Le Carre, it was like Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. It's like trying to explain somebody in 1945 in India the plot of Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. They wouldn't make sense of it. It's difficult. You are trying to explain, for example, somebody in Operation of Raw, somebody who was born in 1935, you won't understand the poor fellow. Indians in those days did not have that much exposure to the rest of the world. To try and explain them, look, this entire story has been plotted. This is a fake story which has been planted in media. So they won't understand. So the people who actually saw through this thing were British and Americans, not Indians. Indians came on the scene much later. Now this was the person who was our ruler, Archibald Wavell. And Wavell, when he heard about the story of Subhash Bose's death, it was released 5 days after his death. He died on 18th of October. Some strange reason, Japanese did not say a word about it. On 22nd, they announced that this man has died. And so the moment he heard about it, he wrote this in his diary, which was made public in 70s. It is just what should be given out if Bose meant to go underground. He said, I don't believe it. The person who claimed that he saw, the first person who claimed that he saw Subhash Chandra Bose alive after his death was an American journalist. He was part of the Chicago Tribune. He interrupted Nehru's press conference on 30th August 1945 to say, look, I have seen these men alive in Saigon a couple of days after his death. So it is Alfred Waug's statement which created the furor. We have got so many reports and intelligence, the name comes, but this I'm showing you the clipping of a newspaper article from that time. So it was Alfred Waugh who claimed for the first time that he saw Subhash Bose alive. It is no Bengalis fellow sitting in Calcutta who is making this claim. So this is how it started. The very nomenclature Bose mystery started with the British. Now this is a declassified document in which you see this bearing. If a solution to the Bose mystery is indeed sought. Lieutenant Colonel Anderson, he was one of the interrogators, the persons who looked up, who went into the trail of Subhash Bose. So the whole thing started with the British and Americans. Indians came in the picture in a big way with Mahatma Gandhi. It was Gandhiji who began to make statement that this man is alive, he is biding his time and he will come back. So there are reports, intelligence reports and so on and so forth. So it is to the credit of Gandhi that he made it a very big issue. He began to make statements in favor of Netaji being alive. Well, if you have problems, what do? You inquire. So there was a team set up under the aegis of intelligence bureau. W. McCrae, who was the deputy chief of the IB, he was a head. Under him, there were other IB officers and from military and elsewhere. So and Feeney was also part of it. So they formed a team, and this team went into the entire issue. So once they did, they found out, and then it was not before long, they discovered that the entire story of Subhash Chandra Bose's death is based on indirect evidence. All that which was claimed happened, that he died in a grave crash and he was third-degree burn, it's all hearsay. Mr. Rahman is claiming that he has died. Because what Japanese seems to have done, they have destroyed every record of his movement. So wherever Subhash Chandra Bose went in Saigon, Singapore, they burned record of his movements. And the whole story was based on hearsay. Though there was no dead body, the body had been disposed of. Even though the Japanese were taking pictures of Subhash Bose until 17th of August, they took no picture of his dead body, so on and so forth. So it became quite suspicious. For example, there are many other points. I was just telling you about Rahman is claiming that I was feeling cold and Mr. Bose was not feeling cold. Well, Mr. Bose is a 47-year-old Bengali. You are a Kashmiri. who was 28 years old. So I don't think so you are being very truthful. So there are many, many such points. Which, Now the major breakthrough was made by Mr. Finney, P.S. Finney. All these people who were put on trail of Subhash Bose, they were people who was chasing Subhash Bose for many, many years. He was I think the senior policeman from the West Bengal scientific days, and he was a deputy director with IB. So this is one of Finney's reports which declassified in 1997 by our government by mistake. And it says here, for example, I was telling you that the story given out by Japanese was that Netaji was going to Tokyo. He was to have discussed the INS surrender, and then he was to have come back. This is the theory given out by them. Now, but when these people began to interrogate the people who last asked Subhash Chandra Bose, then all kind of confusion started to come around. For example, Subhash Chandra Bose's behavior was not gelling with the situation. His personal secretaries, he died in this city in 2010 or something, after deposing before commissions and so on and so forth. He said that Subhash did not sleep on 16 and 17 night. He was working as if there is no tomorrow. He sent out a note to John Thiewy, one of INA personnel. I am going on a long air journey by air, and who knows, an accident may not overtake me. So he said, I understood only afterwards what happened. Then he took with him the INS treasure. Now, if you are going to Tokyo and you have to come back, why should you take the treasure with you? Then, when he was taking leave of his staff, they began to cry. Again, this doesn't go fit well with the entire story. See, why is he like? Why are they crying? I mean, why should you take the treasure with you? Why so much of this kind of behavior? So they got the answer. The answer was, for example, this is one of the many reports which were available to Government of India for such a long time, but they did not breathe a word about it, about this particular issue. In fact, it so happened that people have been making these allegations that this entire story about Netaji being alive is a conspiracy theory, and the story about his being in Russia is a very big conspiracy theory. That's completely wrong, hogwash, because from the day one, the Russian angle is there. This is an IB report. It talks about Mr. Finney interrogating Watanabe, an interpreter, who was part of some of the meetings Subhash Chandra Bose had with Japanese his own people just before he disappeared. So it is here for you to see. Reports from intelligence are written in very simple, plain English. So they don't beat about the bush. They tell you, and every word is weighed before it is written on a report of intelligence bureau and other departments. He says, paragraph number 3, on or about 17th of August, cannot remember the date. He said, this man who was called to interpret a discussion between General Soda, he's a Japanese main man, he's coordinating between Subhash Bose and the Japanese, Gagwa, Subhash Bose, General Bose, Colonel Rahman on the other side. This took place at Bose's house. When Watanabe reached there, the conversation was almost over and Soda was speaking. They were discussing how to get Mr. Bose to his destination. It was generally understood that he was to get to the Russians, probably to Manchuria. From day one, it's very clear. There are documents after another, one document after another you will see, in which the Russian angle looms large. Subhash Chandra Bose was not a fool. Why would he go to Tokyo after the surrender? When the Japanese have surrendered, why should he go to Tokyo? I mean, he could have said anybody. So it is very clear when they did the investigation that Subhash Chandra Bose, much before the war came to an end, he had foreseen the Japanese were going to lose the war. He had begun to make his plan that, and he said that there was only one way I can go to, there's only one place I can hide his pockets over Russia. Russia had helped him even in 41. So the Russian angle is as old as the plain Kashmir. The only difference is that these documents were hidden by our government from us for such a long time. Only in 1997 these files came out. So this is, for example, General J.K. Bhoste's interrogation report, and this is Redford was the hub of the IB military headquarters in those days. 21st March 1946, and Bhosle, who later became minister in Nehru's cabinet. All his life, he did not utter a word about Subhash Bose, possibility of being alive or being in Russia. He would always say Netaji was he died in a plane crash and he was going to Tokyo. But his interrogation report, reveals very clearly that he was aware of the Russian angle, that he's possibly Subhash Chandra Bose in a band towards Russian side. Now, Habibur Rahman case was very simple. I saw yesterday certain Ashish Ray, who's part of Congress party, making all kind of tall claims, sitting in London, selectively interpreting facts, according to his own political inclinations and so on and so forth. Now, there are so many reports of Habibur Rahman's interrogation available today within the Government of India. They are available in National Archive. I'm not showing you a secret report. I'll show you a secret report later on. Now, it says very clearly, and I told you that all documents classified, the IB reports are very simple reports. You don't have to, there's nothing to misunderstand. Now, this, for example, says very clearly about after Rahman's interrogation, It is considered that even if B1269, which is the code name given to Rahman during interrogation, it is considered that even if B1269 was in the low Bose's plans, he would not disclose them. His manner is not very convincing. He talks in a secretive way even if no one is about. So all the reports are on the same lines that Rahman was not being truthful because there are so many contradictions in this SEC. See, the problem is that there are 5 people who are claiming that a VIP was burnt alive in front of their eyes. One can understand there will be some problems, there will be some contradictions here and there. But you're claiming there's a VIP burned alive in front of you, you stripped him naked in full public view. You will never forget these things. It will always be in your mind. I can, for example, never forget what happened on 9/11. I go to my uncle's house, I turn on the TV, and for the first time I'm thinking something horrendous had happened in New York City. And then I see the plane coming and hitting the other tower. I mean, you don't see these things happening every day, so you can never forget. I cannot forget till date, more than 30-35 years back, I saw for the first time in my life a dead body. I can tell you pinpoint which part of Delhi, South Delhi, which road it was a truck, it was not a bus. I can till date pinpoint it again. You are telling me these people who are lieutenant colonels and generals and so on and so forth, people who have a lot of experience, they were Air Force officers. In front of you, a VIP have burned alive, and all 5 of you have a different story. You have so many contradictions. Rahman says, I tried to save him. The other person says, no, it is not Rahman, it is I who tried to save him. I'm sorry, this kind of thing won't work in any investigation. So this is very clear from Rahman. Rahman, to be fair to him, he would talk to people off the record. I know at least one person who was alive and met him, and I have no reason to doubt that man's credentials because he is from a family of freedom fighters. He said, Rahman told me categorically, whatever I'm saying is fine, but just wait for Netaji to return. There's an order that I have been given. So this sort of a thing, he would off the record tell people, I have an order which I have to follow. But on the record, he would keep on making a statement, look, I just meant, directly in cash. Now, unfortunately, he left, he went to Pakistan and then he became a senior Pakistan government officer. He was, I think, heading the Pakistan-China desk. He retired as the Pakistan's Additional Defense Secretary. I don't think it was possible for him to go to some other country and make these claims all over again. But then this is how it is. Now, incidentally, the inquiry into Subhash Bose's death started with the Americans because Taiwan came under the American occupation after the Second World War. So the first inquiry and proper inquiry was carried out by the Americans, and it was around June or May-June 1946, roughly 9 months after Subhash Bose's death, that the British intelligence asked the Americans to shed light on this entire issue. So this is what they conveyed in those days. Very clearly, this document also was released in America in 1997, 1998. War, military intelligence services, war means Pentagon. Pentagon was, I think, not known by that name in those days. The war means Pentagon. This is May 23, 1946. War advises under the date of June 20, 1946 that a search of the files in the intelligence division released that there is no direct evidence that Subhash Chandra Bose was killed in a plane crash, despite the public statement of the Japanese to that effect. The Japanese are saying so. The Japanese are making the statement that he has died. But there is no direct evidence. It has taken us so many years to understand this basic thing. So, now I give you, for example, illustration. Now this is a classified record. This is from a Japanese dossier, which Japanese gave to Indian government in 1950s. It was again given in early 2000 when Mukherjee Commission set up. And in which they are trying to show, for example, that the plane went some 20 meters above the ground and it crash landed. And Mr. Bose and others were, they were, this circle that you see, Mr. Bose was standing here. So this is what they were trying to show, through the sketch, which is a classified record. Now, these pictures were supplied to through Mr. Rahman to Indian side in 1945-46, in which the Japanese claimed that this is the wreck of the plane which was carrying Subhash Bose. So if you take a close look, this wreck is lying near a hill here. You can see a hill in the background. So this is how it is. So this is the sketch, in which they show that the wreck is lying near a runway in the circle, and here you see the pictures of this wreck lying against the backdrop of a hill. Now these pictures have gone missing from the Government of India archives today. Now there's a very strange thing happened in our country, but any document which somehow questions the plane crash story has a tendency to go missing. Either the government will destroy it or it will go missing. Then people give me all kind of lousy excuses. No, it's a very old story, forget about it, you know how badly documents are maintained in Government of India. I'm sorry. Please understand, at the level of Joint Secretary and above, Indians are as smart as anybody in the world. There is no difference in America or India or England. After the level of Joint Secretary, the people are like very smart people who get into IS and IFS. I'll give you example. Musharraf, the Pakistani president, came to India a couple of years back. And then he turned up here. The government of India wanted to give him some memento of his visit to this country. And Musharraf was born in India, and he was not a scion of the Mughal family. He was born in Delhi in 1945, 46, something like that, before independence. And the government of India said, we will give him his birth certificate. In no time, in 3-7 days, they searched for his records, and they were able to procure, Musharraf and his brother's birth certificate, which was duly handed over to him. And then the NDMC chief, New Delhi Municipal Corporation, he made a claim. You can Google search. We have all records since 1917 lying intact. You expect me to believe that the IB has lost files? PMO files have been destroyed. Over Subhash Chandra Bose, top secret files have gone missing, but records about the lives and death of all and sundry are lying intact. Who are you fooling? Records are maintained properly. There is a proper system of maintaining records in our government. Not a file can go from this table to this table. People will be in big trouble. You cannot destroy files so easily, the way they claim they have done. So this is how it is. So the reason why these images have gone missing now, they were available until 1956, but after 1970, there was a big question mark, because this is the area as it is today. So what Japanese were trying to show, that the wreck was lying near the runway. The picture showed the wreck lying near hilltop. So here is the area today, which is to say that you are somehow trying to show that the wreck is lying here in your sketch. In your picture, the wreck is lying somewhere there. So you made a mistake. You have planted pictures of some other plane crash. The moment this lacuna was noted, the image went missing. This is the same area. You can see that the hills are very, very far. See, I can understand that one person saying, look, Netaji, the plane went 200 feet in the air and crashed. The other person said it went 500 feet, 200, 500, I can understand. But one person saying 200, other was saying 12,000 feet. I'm sorry, does it make any sense? It's a huge problem. So you see all these contradictions, lying in this entire report. Now, this is the final report available of the combined section. Look into Subhash Bose's death, which was headed by Mr. W. McWright, and this is Finney's report. This is available in National Archive. I showed this report to a former director of IB, and he explained to me this is a class 1 report intelligence as a professional. He gave me his word. See, what is very common in research, in journalism and intelligence, if you have 3 independent sources confirming one thing, it converges on one point, it becomes gospel truth. Standard formula. It is there in journalism, I know that very well. Now here, they are pulling information. This is what I was told by this expert. They are pulling information from different sides, independent sources, all converging on the same point. Subhash Chandra Bose is alive and he is in Russia. It's plain English. The second paragraph. It seems clear that Bose and staff were trying to make a getaway to Russia. Do you believe that the government of India, last time when we had discussion, this previous government was in power, that chief corrector called Shivraj Patil did not even admit there's a Russian man. He said, why would they go to Russia? Baba, you have documents in your the government of India which are talking about it. But they won't even admit there's a Russian man. Right? You'll understand why. It seems clear that Bose and his staff were trying to make a getaway to Russia. Habibur Rahman, Pritam Singh, Gulzara Singh, Hassan, and have all been examined and appear to have lied. What is more there to understand? They discuss about Gandhi. They say Gandhi has also made statement that he's alive. He's saying, my inner voice is telling me Subhash is alive. And they say, there's no inner voice, he's got something. Because intelligent people don't believe in such thing. Inner voice. Now here, in the last one, this paragraph is very significant. And he said that even Russians at very high level, Russian ambassadors in different countries, they were talking about Bose's presence in Russia. Now why would somebody who is an ambassador in a country will talk about it? Now this, for example, informed by the Russian ambassador in Kabul that there were many Congress refugees in Moscow and Bose was included in their number. There is little reason for such persons to bring Bose into fabricated stories. Obviously, why would they make these kind of claims? This states that Morodov, the Russian Vice Consul General, disclosed in March that Bose was in Russia, that he was secretly organizing a group of Russians and Indians to work on the same lines of INA for the freedom of India. This is the assessment made by the British intelligence or Indian intelligence, because the Indians are also part of it. So this is how it is. And the government continues to deny this and understand why. Well, I don't think I can go on and on, give you so many, show you slide and against the plane crash story, but this is, I think this would be suffice, that I don't think this man died in a plane crash in Taiwan. So the first theory is out. So there have been 2-3 inquiries into Subhash Chandra Bose's death. So for example, there was the Shah Nawaz Committee, 56. The government's premise that Shah Nawaz Khan was part of the INA, which is partly right, because later on he was always like he was in Congress party. He was the parliamentary secretary to the legislature in 56. After the report was given, he was made a minister. Then all his life he remained a minister. And the second commission was set up under public pressure in 1970 by G.D. Costa, who was a stooge of the Gandhi family. Everybody was in Delhi. And he wrote Indira Gandhi's biography. Can you imagine there's a commission, working on Subhash Bose's death? And this is commission chairman is writing a biography of Indira Gandhi. I mean, today's time it is not possible for judge to continue for 1 minute. So these kind of characters were there. Third commission, the third inquiry, formal inquiry. There have been many inquiries, intelligence and other. The third was set up only in 1999. Some people say the BJP set up, but that's not entirely true. It was set up because PIL was moved in High Court. And the Justice Subhash Chandra Bose, the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court, he summoned the government by asking for a question, what is your stand on this issue? What I think yesterday this gentleman was showing on television, all this was discussed in the Calcutta High Court, and the government of India lawyer came and said, look, there are many loopholes in Subhash Bose's death. Tail act has been told by the Japanese. So there are so many loopholes, we don't believe in it. So he said, if you don't believe, then you have an inquiry done. So this is how the Mukherjee Commission was set up. This man was an upright, honest judge, a Supreme Court judge, who led this inquiry, and he reached the same conclusion, which the probably Americans did in 1946. Men may lie, but circumstances do not. The entire story of Subhash Chandra Bose and his death and commission was engineered by the by the Japanese, and this man flew towards Russia. That's what he writes very clearly. Whether he landed there or not, I can't prove, because I was not given access to the Russian intelligence and secret archives. And in between, in the course of this inquiry, this thing also happened that the Taiwan government rejected the post-ban inquiry. The problem with our government is they don't, for the right from the very start, they do not want to go to Taiwan for an inquiry. I mean, it's like, you have a murder taking place in Chennai, but you want to do the inquiry in Durga. But that's not done. You have to come to Chennai. You can't go to Durga. They did not let Shah Nawaz Khan go to Taiwan. Excuse given was India does not have diplomatic relations with that country. They did not allow G.D. Costa for a start to visit that part of the world. And then all these members of parliament, especially Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they all ganged up against Indira Gandhi and said, no, you have to let it go. It's not that. Then eventually they allowed G.D. Costa to go to Taiwan, but he was a very smart guy. He did not talk to anybody in authority. So I am inquiring about an issue, for example, an accident which happened in the campus 20 years back. I just can't come and talk to you guys. I have to go and talk to somebody in the police, and so on and so forth. So this is how you get the whole thing out. Well, when Mr. Vajpayee became the country's prime minister, he did not allow Justice Mukherjee to go visit her. That's the funny part. Now, then the point is, see, I came in the picture. This happened because of me. Look, we have intelligence relationship with Taiwan. We use Taiwan to spy on the Chinese. We have their banks in Delhi. We have sports ties with them. It's a charade. You have a Taiwanese trade mission in Delhi, which works like an embassy in our country. You go to them, talk to them, I went to them, I spoke to them, they were in Vasant Vihar, and they asked me to write to the government, which I did, the level of the president. Then the relevant minister wrote back to me, we have made a search of our records. As far as we are concerned, there was no plain cash for the entire month, and this man probably did not die in our country. And this was conveyed to Justice Mukherjee, and this is how the story broke. Now, the question which everybody seems to be asking, if those ashes lying in Netaji temple are actually in Subhash Chandra Bose's, Rahman took them away. Why can't government of we do a DNA test? Let's end this entire mystery of once and all, because it's so simple thing. Yes, so simple. The government of India was aware of the DNA possibility of, for the first time, the possibility of a DNA test on the supposed remains of Subhash Chandra Bose was discussed way back in 1995. So we have top secret report in which the entire matter was discussed way back in 1995. The people are very smart in Delhi. They are not like people sitting in villages. Justice Mukherjee made his best attempt to get the DNA test done on the so-called remains of Subhash Chandra Bose. It was he who had this cascade open. So these are according to the Ministry of External Affairs Subhash Chandra Bose's remains. You can clearly see there's a jawbone, part of the skull bone, and so on and so forth. Justice Mukherjee then consulted a number of DNA experts in India and outside, in Japan also, in England. All the experts, with the exception of one gentleman who eventually became the director of CFS in India. He, Laji Singh and others, they all said, look, DNA is not possible. Americans, British, and Japanese, everybody said, look, these remains are in a very bad condition, charred. The possibility of DNA test is ruled out, so it will be not possible. But Terry Milton, a very eminent American expert, he told Commission that, look, I can nevertheless give it a shot, can try the mitochondrial DNA test. Mitochondrial come from the mother's side, so from the sister's side of Netaji, there are a lot of relatives available. In fact, one of the police commissioner of Calcutta was Netaji's sister's grandson. So his blood sample was available, and others were also there. So he telemetry said, look, I can anyway give it a try. Even though the chances of the mitochondrial test yielding anything remote, I can give it a shot. You people do an anthropological test on these remains, because we can see clearly the skull bones and skull and jaw bones very clearly evident, visible here. Justice Mukherjee conveyed this thing to Government of India, and thereafter it was as if the cat has taken their tongue away. Not a word was uttered by the Government of India. These ashes are lying in Japan, but the custody is of our government. It is in the custody of the Indian ambassador in Tokyo. These are in our custody. Only the physical custody is given to the Rinpoche temple priest. We took over the custody way back in 52. So when Justice Mukherjee approached the Government of India, asked them that we want to do a DNA test, but first you have to do an anthropological test. The government did not utter a word about it. So the blame for not carrying out the DNA test lies squarely on our government. I am all for it, we should do it, but not in India. I will explain to you why. And in between, when the commission inquiry was happening, because these PMs, etc., were aware of the facts, so when they visited, Japan, especially the temple, so they indirectly gave out, of course, what they were thinking. For example, this is what Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he visited this place, Rinpoche temple in 2001, this is what he wrote. And somebody was putting out of context to tell me, look, Mr. Vajpayee had gone to Rinpoche temple. And Baba, he did go to Rinpoche temple, but you know what he wrote? This is what he wrote. He said, I am very happy to have come to Rinpoche temple, where Subhash Chandra Bose's Smritiyas are safely secured. Now, Smritiya is memories in Hindi. Ashes is known in Hindi as Asthiya. So he has used a different word. Asthiya is ashes, Smritiya is memories. So he's very smart. Now, by the time Mr. Modi came to power, this image made this image was this image was even on Twitter and all that thing. So this meeting happened. This is a very old gentleman who was named the Baker. This meeting was to take place in Rinpoche temple. I have my friends there in Japan. So this meeting was to take place in Rinpoche temple. But Mr. Modi, I think by the time he had seen the files, he did not go to Rinpoche temple. He met this gentleman. He said, I will not go to Rinpoche temple, because I think by now it's clear that this did not die and things like that. Now this is what is called mockery of. This is the reason why I use such harsh language, and that's why there is no scope for any kind of decent communication with Congress party on this issue. Justice Mukherjee Commission set up on Calcutta High Court's order. Here is a high, eminent, honest, upright Supreme Court judge. He gives his report. Now you reject this report without giving any reason. This is the action taken report placed in the Parliament House by the then Home Minister Shiva. I mean, even school card is for far more detail. I mean, you're talking about the death of the person who liberated you in the name of God. What are you talking about? You really believe India became free because Mahatma Gandhi did that answer thing? I'm sorry, but what are you doing that? You have now so much of data available. I don't know which world these people are living in. You have so many documents from the British side. You have statements from people, everybody who was able to see through the whole thing, be it Mr. Attlee or Bhima Ambedkar or Mr. Gover or anybody else. All of them are very clear. You became free. The main reason was, of course, Second World War, which Subhash Chandra Bose had. He was talking about it. In fact, he was in Chennai when Second World War broke, and he talked about it. He looked on time and stuff. The main reason for India to become free was Second World War. Second thing, within India, the main reason was British were ruling this country because of the Indian Army. Because of Subhash Chandra Bose, there was a near virtual revolt in the armed forces. I know my grandfather fought against it. So this is what is, leave aside my personal issues. So because of the near virtual revolt in the armed forces, that the British decided, and Mr. Attlee was somewhat inclined, they had seen the writing on the wall. This is nothing to do with this whole idea about because of Ahimsa they left. I think that doesn't make sense. So this man is your liberator. I mean, you have an inquiry, for example. Suppose if you have an inquiry tomorrow into the death of Jessica Lal, and you have a commission, and the government of India were to reject this report without giving a reason, what will happen? The media will roast him completely. How can you just simply in one line say this? We don't agree with it. Yeah. So this is how it is. So I think I don't go by the plain casually. Second thing is the Russian angle. Now, Russian angle, the most important thing happened only after Soviet Russia fell apart or beginning to crumble. So when in 1987-ish, when Soviet Russia was crumbling thanks to Gorbachev and Perestroika, Then a strange thing happened. For the first time, Russians themselves began to say that Netaji was public with them. And this was mostly those people who had worked with the KGB, the Russian intelligence. Now this is, for example, quotation from Hindustan Times. I have worked with HT is not a KGB paper. So a former head of the old KGB has indicated to a prominent researcher that files in Russian archives do contain detailed information, but the onus is on Indian government to show more interest. This was the main idea which we were able to tell the current Prime Minister of ours. That the Russians have been making these statements in private. Look, though we have records about Subhash, but your government is not showing interest. I'll tell you how. So this is an example of many articles which appeared in Russian press, in 87 and 1990. So this is an example. Now this is a classified report from the Ministry of External Affairs, European East Division, which covers Russian angle. This is from the what is called 1352 NGO section. What is NGO section? Not to be confused with the non-governmental organization. This means not to go out of office section. It's a secret section within the ministry. You have NGO section in the PMO and MEA. We are as good as Americans when it comes to official secrecy. We have also got these secret places where we keep information. And even to understand that one prominent library of India actually has got a section where Rob keeps a paper. Nobody knows about it. But we do have all these things. So this is the NGO section. The document says very clearly, for example, this refers to the whole controversy regarding Subhash Chandra Bose. From time to time, various articles have appeared in Soviet Russian press insinuating that Subhash was incarcerated or in Soviet Union after 45. That means even Russians were suffering from the same disease that we were suffering. Here he has put in his own view, and I have been saying that I am not concerned with the opinion of anybody who serves the government of India on this case. I am not interested in your opinion. This is an opinion, though without any actual proof. When you are talking that Russians have no proof, these are journalists, you are talking in the context of the Indian Evidence Act. I ask you this question. Tomorrow, suppose if we are able to get this Dawood Ibrahim to India, do you think any son of a mother will have the courage to stand in court of law and say, look, this man was responsible for what happened in 1993? Nobody, all these film stars that people run after, they used to do thumkas in these parties in those days. Nobody will have the courage to depose against Dawood Ibrahim. It was very easy, open and shut case what happened in Bombay 26/7. Yet it took 7-8 years to punish that culprit. Kasar. No, Dawood Ibrahim coming to India will never be implicated. Because you don't have sufficient evidence. Under the evidence act of India. But you know and I know that he is responsible. So the same way here. When you say that there is no proof, there is a proof. But you want to have in the manner of courts, I am sorry, you can't do it. I asked the government of India in 2006, give me the copies of correspondence you had with Russian government on Subhash Chandra Bose's fate. This is what they tell me. The requisite copies of correspondence cannot be disclosed as it involves relation with the foreign state, exempt under the provision of secret clauses, we can't give you. So you have correspondence, but you won't give it to. And this is the nation which talks about ahimsa and truth. Satyam Jayate. This is I'll give you more example of this example. This is a classified record. Written by Mr. R.L. Narayan, Ambassador Narayan, who I think he often seen on television these days. Mr. Narayan, did a survey in 1996 of the entire issue, and he writes, for example, that for the first time, the Indian government took up the issue of Subhash Chandra Bose's fate with the Russians in 1990. That means when VP Singh was in power. In other words, as long as India was ruled by these world leaders like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, and Indira Gandhi. They had very big concern about where the humanity is going, peace of mankind and so on. They were world leaders, but they were working on a very big scale. As long as these people were ruling the country, they did not bother to ask what's about us. Some of our buddies got Russians. Russia and India were so close in those days, I tell you. Everything from a Gobar gas plant to atom bomb came from Russian side. Everything came from that. Everything is to come. Even now, I think 70% of the army gets support from Russian side. You could not ask them this simple question whether you have this money. See, the best way to find out whether or not Netaji was in Russia, you ask your friends. You don't need research for that. Ask your friends. They didn't do that. That's what he implies. So he says that for the first time in 1990, for the first time the issue was raised. And Russian told us that we have made a search of our archives and we see there is no information that he was an archivist. So then this man puts a rejoinder. He said, look, there are essentially two types of archives in Russia. The archives which are open and which are closed. Open means like you are an open university. For example, suppose you have a friend coming from America and he wants to do research about Rajiv Gandhi's killing. And if you tell him, please go to the Calcutta library and you go to Delhi public library, this thing is time. If you want to know something about Rajiv Gandhi's country, you have to go to Home Ministry, you have to go to IB, RAW and all those things. IB, RAW, you won't get access, you don't even know where the archive is. I was telling people in America, at least you know, in Netaji you have a CIA office, you have your archive. I don't even know where the IB archive is. I'm told it's a secret location outside Delhi. So, who knows? Where? So this is how it is. So he said the Russian answer, Russian answer denied that they have no information about Subhash Chandra Bose. It has come from those non-classified, non-security archives. That means these KGB archives they have not consulted. Only the public archives they are talking about. So he is then suggesting it would be unrealistic for us to expect Russian authorities to allow our scholars access to KGB archives. Very valid. No country in the world will allow your scholars to go into the intelligence archives of the country. What he recommended, it is recommended. He said we can ask them, we can ask the Russians to make a search and then tell us what is there in these KGB archives. It is recommended that we may request our ambassador in Moscow to make a suitable démarche to the Russian authorities on the above lines. What is démarche? Démarche, see, when two countries talk to each other at different levels. The first and the lowest level is called note verbal. So whatever government of India had asked the Russians in 1990 was basically note verbal. Note verbal is a signed letter issued by your embassy or high commission. Then comes démarche. Démarche is the first serious level. You actually sign that note. So sign is a note which is signed by somebody. Démarche is a note which is signed by somebody. Then you have the higher level. The ambassador would intervene. Then the foreign minister would intervene. He would firstly make a telephone call. He would talk to his counterpart. And then the highest is the government, head of the government level. So the Prime Minister of India will take up the issue with the Russian counterpart, which has happened now. Now this is how the whole thing happens. So all this man, gentleman, R.L. and ambassador who had served in Moscow earlier, he suggested that we have to request our ambassador in Moscow to make a démarche to the Russians on the above lines. And the document was seen by the then Foreign Secretary, Salman Haidar, signatures are here, and it was seen by the then Minister of External Affairs, and he makes a note on the file. This is all classified. This might blame me for whatever is going on right now. Foreign Secretary and Joint Secretary EE may please discuss urgently. And so they discussed this. Then the meeting takes place at 5 o'clock. And believe me, this gentleman Narayanan, who was, I have further records, I don't have them right now, but I have them in a book, I have put photocopies. This Narayanan, who was in favor of India approaching the Russians by way of démarche and asking about the information about Netaji in the KGB archive. After this meeting, which took place at the behest of the Minister of External Affairs, he completely changed his mind. As if somebody had cast a spell of black magic on him. He completely changed his mind. No, we need not ask Russians about it. This will harm our relation with that country. So something went wrong in that meeting because of that minister. Now, this is, I'll give you an example. Démarche is like this. It is issued like this for small issues. This is, for example, a film actress is mostly known in Bengal. Times of India story that Ritu head at Canada Airport. MA issues démarche to Canada government. It is issued like this for small petty issues. You couldn't do even this simple thing with Subhash Bose. Somebody who, because of him, you became free in 47. Otherwise, you would be brushing the feet of British for another 10 years. This was the foreign minister in those days. Now you understand the problem? He was the foreign minister in those days. Netaji issue, if you make files public, it is going to implicate a lot of big people, many of whom are alive and occupying very high positions. It's not an issue of past, it's not an issue of history. I am not concerned here what Nehru did, I am concerned to an extent. But I am worried about those diplomats, those, there is Jain Dikshit or Shan, I give example, Shan Sarat, Foreign Secretary of India, he comes and he gives all kind of lectures on all kind of issues. I'll get him sooner or later, because let the funds come out. So he's making a note as a Joint Secretary in 1990 that nothing would be found in Russian archives. How do you know? Sitting in India, you're making production. How did you know that nothing would be found? What kind of a scientific bent of mind is that? You have to search and then you will find out. So this is what, and the funniest part is all of them claim to be Netaji's follower, including this guy. He's also Netaji. And he was claimed to be Netaji's follower in that sense. They all claim we are Netaji's follower. And what we find out about him, there are so many stories that he was killed, that Stalin got him killed because of him. Absorbed Nehru, Panditji also. People are giving Panditji a bad name. Even people drag Gandhi's name into it. That's not the national interest. This is I give you a story. I'll tell you how bad this thing is. That the government of India did not take up the issue with Russians. This is how bad that is. This is Raoul Wallenberg. He was a Swedish diplomat who was. The story of his fate is quite similar to Subhash's fate, so to speak. In January 1945, Wallenberg was, he had like Schindler, Oscar Schindler. He saved a lot of Jews during Second World War. He showed them, mermaids and whatnot. So he saved thousands of people. Many of whom, later on shipped to different countries, especially in America. And he was, I think, he was made an honorary American citizen. I think only one of 3, 4 people who are, given honorary citizenship of America. Now, this man, for example, he was reported. He was the second secretary in the Swedish mission in Budapest. He was reported dead in January 1945, same year Subhash Chandra Bose disappeared. First, it was reported that he has met with an accident and he has died. Then the story comes, no, he has not died, he has been kidnapped by the Russian army, Russian Red Army. The moment it becomes known, it becomes evident, his government, his people, to anybody with bona fide, anybody who doesn't have any malign intentions would do. His stepsister, we talk so much about family values, his stepsister still not giving it up. Stepsister, stepbrother, his mother, they went to the Prime Minister of Sweden. Sweden is a small country. Russia is a big here. Small country, they went to their Prime Minister and said, look, he was working for you. Get him out of that country. Between 1945 and 47, 8 times, at the highest level, at the level of Stalin also, even the ambassador of Sweden, Stalin, put this question to him, do you have anything about the person called Wallenberg? 8 times they made the highest level approaches. We could do that simple thing in our country. We talk so much about our having world leaders. Small country, and then we raised the issue. In 1947, the Russians came out with a statement. We have made a search of our archives, and Wallenberg is unknown to us. Thereafter, every now and then, these people in Sweden would get stories, all hearsay. Somebody who has just come back from the Gulag, he has heard that in the other Gulag, Wallenberg was alive. He was kept as a prisoner in some area of, Siberia and so on and so forth. These kind of things which you can never prove in a court of law, all hearsay. So they kept on receiving this kind of information and intelligence, and they kept on raising the issue of Russians all the while. They kept on doing it, and when the point came, now we have a record available. When the Russian Foreign Minister Molotov is making a note, now Swedish Prime Minister in 57, 58, he is going to come to our country. And this issue is again on the agenda of our discussion. This issue has spoiled our relation with that country. All the time they are asking us about this issue. Now time has come to complete. Then in 58, the same Russian government which had made a statement, that Wallenberg is unknown to us, after 10 years gave a statement that Wallenberg died in 1947 in the KGB headquarters after interrogation. That is euphemism for killing him, because he was only 32 years old. So he died after interrogation in KGB headquarters in 47. So you were telling lies for all these years, for 10 years. There are other examples also. I'll give example India also. Remember the first thing happened? When the first story broke by a Swedish radio, Rajiv Gandhi made a statement that this whole thing is a ploy to defame India. I'm sorry, somebody took money. It's proven now. Only the question remains that, Vin Chadda was given money because he was an arms agent. Why in the world somebody would pay Kotharachi? He is either an arms agent, knowledge into government of India, and also not part of the Swedish government. Why should somebody pay him? That is the only question. And he is killed. So this is how bad it is. You have not raised. Now mercifully, this government has understood, and the matter has been raised. When we met the Prime Minister, we told him this thing, and he agreed to it. And in fact, the issue, I can confirm to you, the issue has been raised, but I have my points. Unless until we declassify our own files, I am not going to give you documents so easily. First, you may come out clean. You clear your ID records first. Clear your raw files first. Then you talk to Russians about their own PG files. So I think I'm out with the issue of plane crash. It's ruled out. Second option is also ruled out as far as I'm concerned. That he was in Russia. I think he was in Russia. I am not willing to go with the theory that he was killed in Russia because I see no evidence. With due respect to Subramanian Swamy, there are a lot of flaws in his theories. For example, when he says that to postulate that Pandit Nehru's behest, Joseph Stalin killed Subhash Bose. You do not know the basic facts of history. Stalin hated Nehru. There are a lot of girls sitting, so I can't tell you what exactly he wrote about Mr. Nehru in the personal notes. He hated Nehru. He did not like Mr. Gandhi. Why would he kill a man for somebody he hated? I mean, this man has come on his own accord. Subhash Bose, now we have records showing he sought asylum from the Russians. In fact, when Justice Mukherjee went to Russia, some of these people off the record told him this point. Look, if he had come there, we would have taken care of him. This is a method in madness. Of course, Stalin killed 5 million people, but he did not kill everybody. There were other 25 million he did not kill. He killed with a reason. He had all the reason to keep this man alive. And that's what probably, So there is no evidence. When you say, for example, this statement Dr. Swami made the other day, he produced a statement of Shamlal Jain before Costa Commission. That Shamlal Jain made a statement that he was asked by Mr. Nehru to write a letter, type out a letter which was addressed to Mr. Attlee, in which he was said, your war criminal Subhash Chandra Bose has escaped to Russia, please do whatever you like. So even in that letter, it says he has been given shelter by Stalin. Now, I am sorry, Mr. Swami released this Shamlal Jain's statement before media, but he has released only one part of it. Yes, Shamlal Jain made the statement before commission, but please read the second part of it also. Shamlal Jain is saying he went to Russia, which I also did. But later on, the same Shamlal Jain makes a statement, if you believe that, he says, I met Subhash Chandra Bose in UP in 67. So you are removing that portion, but you are putting out the other part and you are saying he was killed in Russia. I'm sorry, nowhere it says he was killed in Russia. So that's, I am not willing to go by the Russian angle. I am putting my money, oh my God, I'm going to put my money on this. I mean, suddenly something which I thought was finished in my grandfather's time, it is coming to my time. I mean, this is horrendous with kids. And that, I mean, even today I think of it, I mean, it just blows my mind. Can you imagine? I will give you my reasons why I'm putting money on this issue. In 2006, Justice Mukherjee gave his report in which he said that this holy man who so-called Gumnami Baba, which was a term given to him after he died, so he was known as Bhagwanji to people who used to meet him. He said there was no clinching evidence that Bhagwanji was Subhash Bose. Media's interpretation in those days was, I'll come to that later on also, that he has rejected the Father Bhattacharya. No, he has not rejected it. He's saying there is no clinching evidence. Which is to say, you have evidence, but it is not clinching. Which I am saying even today. You have evidence, it is not clinching, but you have evidence. It is different from rejecting something. In 2010, the same judge was caught on camera making statement that he was 100% convinced this man was him. Please understand, this man is a former Supreme Court judge. People keep talking about evidence and whatnot. What is evidence and what is not evidence? That is no better than human being. So if he saying I am 100% convinced this man was him, and what he said I can tell you which was not recorded, I couldn't prove it because of Government of India and the Bose family. That's what he said. I explained, I give you reason why. I couldn't prove it because of the Government of India and because of the Bose family. That's what he said, which is not shown, but this is I know. So he said, I am 100% convinced this man was him. So let me give you reasons why he thought. But let me go a little aside. I was telling you that we people formed a group called Mission Netaji in 2006, 5ish, and we said we have to do something, turn the whole issue, bring it to the book, to put the focus on, take the focus away from Subhash Chandra Bose to secrecy. Because media will not take any interest in Subhash Bose, but they will pay attention to official secrecy. Luckily for us, you have this Right to Information Act enacted in 2005, and we approached the Ministry of Home Affairs for information. After Justice Mukherjee Commission report was rejected by Shivraj Patil, and there was some discussion in Parliament in which Mr. Patil made a statement that the finding of Justice Mukherjee are not as reliable as those of Mr. G.D. Costa and Shahnawaz Khan, because they were Congress people. So of course, he didn't say those things, but this is what he said. We filed a simple application seeking all the copies of exhibits used by Shahnawaz Committee and Costa Commission to arrive at the conclusion which they did. So exhibits are documents which any Commission of Inquiry Committee uses to arrive at a conclusion. So the moment we filed this application in 2006, we are told by the Ministry of Home Affairs, National Security. Your Home Ministry is saying publicly this man died 70 years ago. Then what is National Security? Give us those documents. We would not. Then there have been allegations have been made against me that somehow these Congresses are very good at cooking up conspiracy theories. All these filed documents are being given to me by somebody in the government. BJP is giving it and defending Mr. Nehru. I'm sorry, all these documents, majority of them, I obtained them when Congress Party was in power. Now, for example, when we went to 2006, we took our case to the Central Information Commission. All the people sitting there were appointed by the previous government. Bajaj Habibullaji was there, Dr. O.P. Kejriwal was there, Mr. Ansari was there. So many people, all the people were there because of the previous government, not because of us. We went there and told them, sir, this is a problem, sir. These people are refusing to give us documents but talking about national security. They don't explain the reasons also. And on everywhere people are abusing Nehru. It is defaming, it's like they're giving even Panditji bad. So these guys from the ministry would have no answer. So for example, when we approached them, Home Ministry, then people came, the officers came, and they told us, and then they gave in writing also to the commission, They were holding something like 70,000 pages. This is the home ministry only, which is the nodal ministry in Subhash Bose case. They were holding something like 70,000 pages concerning Subhash Bose's death, of which some documents are so sensitive that if disclosed, it may lead to law and order problems across the country, especially in West Bengal. That you have some documents so sensitive that if disclosed, it will lead to violence across the country, especially in West Bengal. This was said on record by the then Home Secretary. I think Mr. Dhar was the Home Secretary. Home Secretary is the single most powerful, I think, because whole internal security is under his thing. Yes, Cabinet Secretary is above it, but the Home Secretary is a very, very powerful person in this country. So this is how it happened, but the commission listened to us, gave the order, look, no, these people have demanded 205 documents, release those papers, and also this 70,000 not you send it to National Archive. There is no reason for you to keep it hidden from people of this country. And they said all those good things about it. This is a national issue, this is an issue of national importance, and this happened in 2006 when Congress party was in power. And Vajradharullah took a lot of interest. He still is interested in this case because of one of the basic facts. Then what happened, out of these 70,000 pages, some 10,000 pages were declassified by previous government in 2008. In 2010, they were released, sent to the National Archive. Now, when you send information to National Archive, especially when you're talking in terms of thousands of pages, it takes a lot of time for the your archive to process them and then make it available for researchers. So the opening happened only last year in November. And what happens? I was the only madman who went to the National Archive looking for these papers. So I saw and I opened the papers, some of them, and I come across these files. And then it so happened when you were releasing 10,000 pages, somebody made a mistake. By mistake, he released certain files which are not to come out. And this is the reason why we are discussing this entire case today, because snooping scandal. Now, what is snooping scandal? Now, you would not know, most of you very young. When we talk about any scandal in any country, we tend to put a suffix gate word after it. This is coal gate, this gate and that. What is gate? The gate comes from Watergate scandal, most notorious case in history, when only instance when American president was almost impeached. Richard Nixon got a bad name. He did so many work for the country's own country, but he was kicked out. American court, Supreme Court, the media went after his life and he was forced to kick. What is Watergate scandal? Very simple case. Watergate building houses the offices of the Democratic Party. 3 retired CIA officers go there with the intention of planting listening devices bugs there. And these people were so incompetent they got caught. CIA people. They should learn from us. So incompetent they could not even plant those bugs. They got caught. The moment they got caught, the inquiry started, and it turned out that Mr. Nixon was aware. That is the Watergate scandal. In my country, for 30 years, these guys were doing it. Nobody had it. And the main person behind it was renowned as Chacha to India. I mean, Mr. Nehru was compared to Mr. Nehru, Nixon was a novice. He got caught in the first instance. एक बहुत बड़ा का सबक तुम लोग इतना इनकम्पिटेंस तुम लोगों में से ये लोग हमसे सीखो हम तुम्हें सिखाते Now they were spying on, first of all there's a fallacy, I will add some more information, there's a fallacy, the spying did not happen A in Bengal, it happened all over the country. B, not just Netaji's family, anybody linked to Subhash Chandra Bose was spied on. It happened in Chennai also. Everywhere. This is an all India thing. I'm amazed. I mean, as somebody who has a little bit of intelligence, I mean, I compare these documents to these are mind you papers coming from a state of West Bengal. If you compare these with the MI5 or MI6 and CIA reports of that vintage, these are the same level. So they were able to generate such intelligence even at the level of Calcutta, even with that area. Would you please let me know if there's anything adverse on record in your office regarding the undermentioned person who has applied for passport? They're asking about the Netaji's nephew who was a freedom fighter. He's going to some foreign countries, they're asking about it. What did you consider? Now somebody was making these points on television discussion, they are supposed to be renowned historians. There was some lowly officer, some lower ranking officer, even somebody like your Subhash Bose, Netaji's grandnephew, Howard Mitchell professor speaks English and American accent. He thinks some lowly officer were doing it. What do you mean by lowly officer? You think Mr. Kaur was a lowly officer? Are you aware what Mr. Kaur was? R.N. Kaur, Rameshwar Kaur? Yes. He was your first God IB. They were all shining lights, so top leading men of the IB. You know who was B.N. Malik? B.N. Malik was IB director for 13-14 years. He was the big daddy of all spies in this country. You know who was Mr. M.L. Ahuja, who was the IB chief in 67? All top level. Why would
issue concerning Chota Mota issue concerning Netaji's family. Why should you keep Mr. Cow in the loop? You know who Mr. Cow was?
Cows, men.
Cow was a big daddy. I mean, these are India's #1 top spies. Why are you keeping them in the loop? And this is a lowly officer, and you can see, look at the level to which they have fallen to. Subhash Bose and his mother, Krishna Bose, they have no shame. It is his own father is being spied upon. That lady's husband was being spied upon. In the very next day, when the story broke in India Today, they are writing articles, Panditji hasn't died. Are you running Netaji's circle or are you running Nehru's circle? इतना चमचागिरी का मतलब हद कर दी. हस्बैंड उसका जासूस किया, उसको हस्बैंड का चिंता नहीं, पंडित नेहरू का नाम नहीं कहा. चमचागिरी of the highest order. This is how. This is Nehru. This is Nixon, by the way, if you haven't seen his face. This is lowest compared to our man. Panditji stands taller than him. Example. H.M. Trivedi, journalist. The fault of this poor man was he wanted to write a biography of Netaji in Gujarati. He also spied upon. Secret. Special Branch CID Madras, dated 22nd April 1958. In 26/11 happened, there was a complaint that we don't share intelligence because something goes on in one part of the country, you don't share it. Look, they were sharing it. It is reliably learned that Shri Kumar Bose, secretary of Netaji's Bureau, he has met somebody. Now, Netaji's nephew, he is meeting a journalist in Chennai, in Madras. It is noted by the CID branch here, reported to the deputy director of IBC. This is called intelligence sharing. It was perfected in those days, in the days of Sachin. And this. Now you know this man. You think these things happen only in America? You think you are the nation of Ahimsa and we are the harbingers of peace for the men? What rubbish. India rejects Snowden's request for asylum. Khurshid backs evidence. We backed it. We are the only country that backs evidence publicly. Nobody understood the meaning of it. It is actually not stooping Khurshid to abuse evidence. He said this is not stooping. I give you examples too. I challenge people in America publicly on this particular slide. You show me a simple example of this order from the Watergate scandal, and I'll change my name. This is the report of a very secret. The secrecy of this interception will kindly be maintained. Interception by the England foreign leader of Elgin Road. Netaji, something happened. The person being spied upon is Prithviraj Sabha of Darjeeling, government school Darjeeling. And he was spied upon on 9th October 1949. The fault of Prithviraj Sabha was that he wrote a letter to Subhash Bose's brother asking whether Netaji is still alive or not. That's why he was spied upon. And he was in class 9th. These people should have been beaten with slippers on Howrah Bridge today if they were alive today. These so-called inspectors in CID and IB. A thorough inquiry has been made about the writer of the letter. His name is Prithviraj Sabha, aged about 15 years, son of so and so forth, and he is a teacher, student of school. It is learned from the headmaster of the government higher secondary school that day. So, copy forwarded for information to Shri P.K. Basu, IPS, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Special Branch. Special Branch को बच्चे की खबर दे रहे हैं. जूता मारना चाहिए. They want to understand one simple straight thing. Intelligence Bureau or CIB or Pakistani ISI, they are not into ghostbusting. Okay, A, B. They were not spying on Netaji's family or near neighbors. They were spying on the real person. If he comes back, he'll get in touch with his near and dear. So they were on his trail anyway. The files are very clear. They were chasing Subhash Bose. Any news about Subhash Bose's death, it is being covered. So that's the motive. That's where the all media communities. So this is all about it. But what worries me all the more is this. This you will understand very easily. I will not explain. For example, this is casual agent reports on 14th of July 1955. This is from the National Archive Day, which by mistake came out. Casual agent reports that on 14th July 1955, one Cecil Kumar Bose communicated with Emily Shankar of Vienna that Netaji's wife is writing a letter to her nephew and he was spied upon. Imagine today, suppose for argument's sake, Kasturba was alive in 1955 and she communicated with her nephew in 1955, and if it were to emerge today that Kasturba's letter was spied upon, copied and kept, copies were kept by Gujarat police on record, intelligence department, what would happen? Hell will break loose in the country. How dare you spy on Gandhiji's wife. I asked this question, how dare you spy on Subhash Bose's wife? What are you running? Are you running a secret police state? I'll give an example. When Americans were looking for Osama bin Laden, because there was a question raised again and again in this country, why are you wanting to know about Subhash Chandra Bose's death? Forget about it, it's an old issue. People are dying of hunger, their farmers are committing suicide, they're wasting money on this issue. This N.T. Ramaraw's daughter, who was part of the Congress, then she has joined BJP, she was a deputy Acharya minister. She probably would have come to this place also as a minister. She asked the question, how much money has gone into the Mukherjee Commission's visits outside the country? 11 lakh rupees. No, you're so worried about the money part. And it's been there, all government reports are talking about this, too much money is being wasted on this issue. You never ask for example, I was telling you about the DNA thing. This Bhamri Devi episode, I wonder if you heard about the Rajasthan thing. Bhamri Devi was reported killed, and she was not exactly a social worker, and the farmer also. And Bhamri Devi's dead body, they were not able to locate. So they went and all over the jungle in some part of Rajasthan. They were able to locate where exactly the body was. Dug it out, and the bones were sent for DNA testing to the FBI lab. At no point of time did anybody say the same thing, why are you doing it, she's not going to come back alive, why waste public money on such issue? But on Subhash Bose, we are concerned about the money part. So this is what happened. So, and in Americans were chasing Bin Laden. They were having something like 40 officers who were on his trail. When these files came out on the West Bengal side also, there was a report in media, the 16 officers were on the trail of only the Subhash Bose's family. My understanding, having taken a look at the whole thing, they must have put at least 100 plus officers on Subhash Bose. How did we get this so much money from? I mean, Americans could manage this much of resource and money in 1990s to hunt Bin Laden. Here is government of India's Nehru's time. We are able to. How many people are chasing this ghost story of Subhash Bose? Where do you get all this money from? This spying on Subhash Bose's family, the language, as I said, it is impeccable. These guys know the grammar very well. There is not a single grammatical error. I sometimes see grammatical mistakes even in CIA reports. But here in India, there is not a single mistake, grammatical mistake. Now, they are spying. This is the year is 1955. Subhash Chandra Bose has been dead for 10 years. Would you describe Mrs. Sonia Gandhi today, Rajiv Gandhi's wife? No, unfortunately, Rajiv Gandhi is dead. So she is unfortunately Rajiv Gandhi's widow. Look, this is what they wrote in the file. On the file, the margin. This is the note by the intelligence officer. The addressee is evidently the alleged wife of Shri Subhash Chandra Bose. A wife also, the widow also. This is very clear that they are aware this man is alive. This is all the media cutting across line, deduce, same thing, Congress was scared of Bose's widow. This is what you deduce from those files. So if he was killed in Russia in 1955, why would the IB chase his family in 1965 and 75? That by itself, kills the Russian ambassador. Now, this is something, misfortune of my government. This came out from the British side a couple of months back. Now, I was able to get it out. Now, it so happened, you see that strange thing happened in our country. When we have this transfer of power, what we think was Independence Day, actually it was a transfer of power. A lot of hanky-panky thing happened at one time. And one hanky-panky thing was that, they set up a fellow called SLO, Security Liaison Officer. माई बाप थे हमारे पुराने जमाने के जो अंग्रेज के बड़े अफसर थे वो यहाँ they was made to sit here and your IB director will go and salute this MIBAP every morning. This is what he was. So your intelligence IB was reporting to the SLO. SLO was a MIBAP. MIBAP left this country only in 76. So there were different people who used to come here. There's a famous loyalty knows no bound. चमचागिरी की जो पराकाष्ठा होगी मैं वो दिखाता हूँ आपको कितना What they did, this is coming from the British archive, 7th October 1947. After independence, they were spying on Subhash Chandra Bose's near and dear son and supplying the information to the British. This is what they did. If you people in BJP, I told them they are very tolerant towards Congress party. If Congress party were in power and you had done this thing, so they would have taught you a lesson. For that woman was killed, was that this terrorist link, there was this change. For Ishwar Jha, they almost dismantled the ID. They were able to, if Congress party in power would have not, left a stone unturned to, put you in deep trouble. So for example, this letter dated 9/8/47 from A.C. Nambiar to Omena Bose. A letter which A.C. Nambiar, who Subhash Bose's supporter, is writing to Subhash Bose's nephew. You have to track it. And this letter is being sent to the MI5. Now, this is a document which is from the Indian side, but it has come from the British side because it was declassified last year. Mr. Bala Krishna Shetty, who was the man in charge of spying on Subhash Bose. He is writing to Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond is the SLO, Maiba. The attached is a letter on 9/8/47. This is 1 month after India's independence. It was intercepted at Netaji's house in Calcutta. The letter was seen during secret censorship and passed on. We should be grateful for your comments on the letter. As if he's asking what is uncle's marriage. You're spying on your own people, supplying information to the foreigners, those who ruled you, and you're asking for the comments. So this is what Times of India front page. Documents revealing Nehru government shared information on Netaji with MI5. Congo's effort to shield Nehru's role fall flat. This is what Times of India front page, all over India edition. The bad part is that I subsequently put an RTI query to the government of India. I want these files because they were spying on journalists, they were spying on individuals, they were spying on girls. Even Netaji's teenager, 15, 16-year-old nieces are also not spared. I said, give me those papers. So they refused. This government refused to give. So I have been very clear on it. You have to go public with IB and law files. You Americans don't go and say that they are the harbinger of the peace and truth in this world. They don't say Satyam and Jayate. We say, please make everything public at once. This government is not doing that. And until such time they do it, this case will not be resolved properly. The IB intelligence files are very important. Now, this is the story of this so-called Gumnami Baba. Give me some time because this is the most fascinating part of it. This man was a very strange person. Actually, we call him the Faizabad ka Baba, so-called. He was Faizabad only last. He was actually in Lucknow. He turned up from nowhere in 56. When Shahnawaz committee report was given, he slipped into India from Chinese side, and he was in Lucknow. He was in different places because he had a very strange way. He would not talk to anybody. He wouldn't give his handwriting sample to anyone. He would remain holed up in a room all the time. Sometimes he would vanish for weeks and he would not come back. Nobody would know where he has gone to. And you go inside the room, he will discover his face with the monkey cap or something. If he has to move somewhere, he will go at night. Again at night, he will cover his face. Won't utter a word. Won't give you any. He will write on a piece of slate, and he will sit behind a curtain and give you like this and take it back. Obviously, people became suspicious, and in between, somebody heard his voice, very heavy voice, very pronunciation very clear. And somebody heard him speak in Bangla, somebody heard him speak in English. So people would become suspicious. So what this man would do every time there was suspicion about him as an entity, he would leave that area and go to some place. So he was in Lucknow, he was in Nimisharanya, he was in Basti, he was in Faizabad, then he again went back to some other place. So he was lastly in 83 he came to Faizabad. He spent 10 years in Ayodhya and 4 or 5 places. This is one of the places he stayed in Ayodhya. He stayed in this place in Basti. I met somebody from Basti yesterday. He stayed in this place in Basti for quite some time. Lastly, he landed up in this place called Ram Bhavan. It's basically koti on the prominent part of the city. He was not living here. He was actually on the back side of the koti. There's a shanty of 1 room, 2 rooms only, in which he stayed with attendants. And so he was. This is my friend Chandrajit Ghosh, and he would be here sitting. People coming from outside would be talking to him on the other side. There would be curtain. After 1980, he began to talk a lot compared to what he was doing otherwise, and he would speak a lot. So talk for hours at times. He was more liberal in giving an handwriting sample, and so on and so forth. And when he sort of passed away in 1985, people tend to assume many of them that Netaji and Mahatma Gandhi were the same age. No, they were not. Gandhi ji was elder to Subhash's father. Sardar Patel was 22 years elder to Subhash Chandra Bose. Sardar Patel. Pandit ji was 9-10 years elder to him. He was an entirely different generation. In fact, I have got a record with me. I will put it up next time. British intelligence is saying that they are jealous of him. He was young, dynamic, popular, and nobody liked him. So the word jealous comes very clearly. They were jealous of him. So if Subhash Chandra Bose was alive up to 85, he would have been 80 years. So this man was roughly the same age group, as people claim. And Morarji Desai was 1 year elder to Subhash Bose, and he became a prime minister in 1977. Because he had a very magic potion which kept him in a tree. Like Peter Man, he was. Don't ask him what magic potion is. He was cremated, and this makeshift samadhi has come up. This is place called Guptar Ghat in Ayodhya, in Faizabad. Faizabad was at the side. So he was cremated here after his so-called reported death. And then this place is actually holy because it is where Lord Ram had also taken Jal Samadhi. So this is the same temple, close to that very famous historic temple. This place is. Now, as long as this person lived, there was no discussion, there was no talk about Shri Netaji. There was one small reference, sometime in 75. So the only reference came when he died. Then people entered his room. First of all, his followers, local, they began to say, look, he was Netaji, we were under, he had asked us to keep our mouth shut, so now we can. So this is how it started. And then they opened his room, they found nothing but basically it's a library. He's having all kind of books, and in English, and Hindi, and Sanskrit, and every piece of information concerning Subhash Chandra Bose. Some of them are like intelligence reports, and they were being sent to him. And there were a lot of things, a lot of pictures of Netaji's mother and father, for example. They were not being displayed by him. And it's strange, why would somebody keep somebody's mother's photograph, for example? And it was being sent to him saying, this is mother's photograph. So he was on the illusion, this is my mother's photograph. So a lot of pictures of Netaji's father, mother, some umbrella, which is supposedly Subhash Chandra Bose's father, a picture of Netaji, other members of family wrapped properly, and so forth. There were books, Encyclopedia Britannica, there were all sorts of books on every issue, subject under the sun, they were there. Essentially, they were books, And a lot of things which are in Bangla, you could make out his guys at Bengali, he was Swami Vivekananda's father, and so forth. Thereafter, the local media got the story, and they began to report towards the late 85 if this man was possibly Subhash, and there was an inquiry was here. Then what happened when the local inquiry started and the media somehow reached the same conclusion. And Netaji's niece Lalita Bose, this is Amit Mitra, who is currently the finance minister of West Bengal, who was the former General Secretary of FICCI. Amit Mitra's Masi, maternal auntie. So Lalita Bose, Netaji's niece, turns up, and she also happened to see those stuff. And she began to cry, this is my uncle, this is my grandfather, this is that. So it was she who identified this is my uncle's stuff. And one of her cousins was also there, because in Netaji's family the order was Sharad Bose, Suresh, Tirumala and Subhash. Tirumala was married and she was there in Gorakhpur, which is not very far from Gorakhpur, but she was dead by then. Her son also came. He did not utter a word about it to media, but she went public. She said, look, this man is my uncle. And there has to be a proper inquiry into the entire episode. And this is one of many statements she made to media in those days, that this Baba was of the same age. Whoever this Faizabad fellow was, he was born on 23rd of January 1897, 12:10 AM. And he said he was of the same size. I tried to confuse him, but yes, this man was around 5 foot 9, 10. Very fair, pink. People tell me he was Bhagwan, he was pink, very color, and that his accent was Bengali. So this is like, see, I have a typical Delhi accent of Indian English, and this person had a Calcasian accent of Bangla. In Bangla also you have different accents. So he was somebody who had his formative years in India, whoever this man was. And she writes that his books, notes on books in English and Bengali look like the writing of Netaji. If this statement, if you make before a court of law, it's a legal technicality that this woman died before the Mukherjee Commission came in the picture. If you make the statement before court of law, this handwriting is my uncle's, or this is my father's, or sister's, or brothers, then you have a report of a handwriting expert. It is as good as the test report. So the legal technicality, she died in 1998, something like that. Well, what she did was she actually went to the High Court, Allahabad High Court. People are talking about evidence. Shugata Bose making a statement 3 days back to link Netaji with some this Faizabad Baba is an insult to Subhash. What do you mean by insult, boss? Are you out of your mind? I mean, what is evidence? Who will judge this evidence is there or not? Of course, judges will learn. Forget what this is Mukherjee. Lalita Bose in 1985, she moved the Allahabad High Court. Look, there is something suspicious happening. This stuff has been found. The local government is not helping. The chief minister is not willing to help. There has to be an inquiry. This person looks like an uncle. And it was only in 2013 that this verdict came. Eminent judges of UP, if you are from UP, you should know that what kind of judges these people are. The very eminent judges who gave, this is the Allahabad High Court. You have to go to Supreme Court to get verified. Allahabad High Court judgment agreed on record. There is a link between this man and Subhash Bose. So now you have to think. First, this is Mukherjee, an expert who wrote Subhash Bose's death, believes personal level this man was Subhash Bose. Now in the Allahabad High Court sitting, they are saying if there is evidence. In fact, this is what they say in the judgment. There appears to be no room for doubt that there was substantial oral and documentary evidence which prima facie makes out a case for the scientific investigation with regard to the identity of this man. You have evidence. So please go and talk to the courts. If you think there's an insult, it is court. If the court courts the from the book of Subhash Bose and mine, and they praise me also. Of course, they praise me more, all the more because of what I've done. But they have also quoted Subhash Bose and praised him in the context of Netaji's life and times. Court gave two orders: A, this man's belonging, which